Hello and welcome to my next episode of A Get a Life Moment with myself, Lisa Davies. Now today I am joined by Stewart Redpath, who is the co-founder of MindHarp. What's that, I hear you say? Well, we're going to find out a lot more about MindHarp in the next few minutes, but welcome, Stewart.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Lovely to be here.
Brilliant. Now, we met through the Wellness Network, didn't we? And I was absolutely fascinated as you started to talk about what you are doing with MindHarp. But before we get on to that, for the benefit of our viewers, who is Stewart Redpath?
Who is Stewart Redpath? So I have a background in business, but before I got into marketing and business and branding, I was a musician. So I picked up a guitar at the age of 7, which is a moment I remember very, very vividly. Actually, my eldest brother brought a guitar home and I picked it up, and it's a very clear memory now, all those years later. And I was hooked from that moment. So I took up the guitar at the age of 7, bought my first guitar with my pocket money at 9.
Oh, you saved up for 2 years.
2 years, yes.
Yeah.
I borrowed a guitar of one of my brothers for 2 years, and then eventually managed to get my pennies together and bought myself a guitar at 9, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so it's always been a very central and important part to my life, and I might come back to that. So music has always been a very central part of what I am and you know, my life, and it's opened many doors. It's created many friendships and unexpected experiences in my life as well, which has been wonderful.
It is a real connector of people, isn't it, music?
That's the key thing, and that is the driving force behind MindHarp, is the fundamental principle of the mystery of music, in fact, which is something that actually I've been thinking a lot about in the last 5 years, from the inception of MindHarp.
Yeah.
What music does to us as human beings.
Yeah, I mean, it has a resonance with us. Energetically, of course, it has a resonance with our soul, I believe. But yeah, I noticed you've got some beautiful, well, a couple of beautiful guitars on the wall behind you. And what is the other one? Is that a mandolin, a balalaika? What is it?
Yeah, that's actually a Greek bouzouki.
Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. Is it similar to a guitar or something very different?
Well, I suppose in a way it's part of the guitar family. I suppose in a way it's a bit more like a lute, really.
Wow.
In that it's an older instrument, but it's still used very, very actively in Greece. Music's very important in Greek culture. Folk music is really still central, and they still tell their stories through folk music. And I happened to be wandering down a back street in Athens some years ago, and came across this little shop that made them, and it's a beautiful, beautiful instrument. And I wish I could play it better.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's quite synchronistic that you should say that about folk music. A friend of mine called Julie Russell is a folk singer. She's also known as the bread witch because she brings communities together singing and making bread.
Wow.
But she sent me one of her recordings of her CD, and it's all folk songs that she's singing, unaccompanied in most cases, but they all tell stories.
Yes.
But I guess that's what music does for us, whether there are words to it or not, it's telling us a story, isn't it? So tell us a little bit more about MindHarp then.
Yes.
Just what is MindHarp?
Okay, let's just cut to the chase, and I'll try and sum it up in a nutshell. MindHarp is both a product and a practice. And the fundamental driving force behind the product is that it's an app-based device which enables anybody to actively and meaningfully engage with music and musical sound.
Right.
So it's designed specifically for people who've never picked up an instrument, never felt confident to pick up an instrument, never even thought about picking up an instrument actually.
Yeah.
And therefore the barriers to creating music, experimenting with music are very, very simple. I might as well just show it to you very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Really don't know won't know what I'm talking about until they actually see it. So this is the player screen, and all you have are 8 buttons, 8 colored buttons, and these 2 white buttons are effects. They affect the timbre of the sound, and all you do is tap the coloured buttons. It's a bit like if you could imagine a painter with a palette of paints.
Yeah.
In a sense, it's a bit like a palette of musical paints, which you can paint your own musical pictures with. And we also like to talk about going on musical journeys. So, you know, if you're just going to be playing on your own solo, you can just experiment with the way that the sounds and textures overlay with each other, create different melodies. So it's really simple. There's no barriers to accessibility, basically. Just turn that off.
That's interesting where you say thinking about it in terms of a painter. I have a good friend actually, Greg Chapman, who is a musician, and he plays the didgeridoo. He's a sound healer, and I can't remember what the name of it is. It's synesthesia. He actually sees sound.
Yes, yeah. That's a fascinating condition. That is.
Yeah. Yeah, and he sees sound. So I love that combination of the senses, because we are tapping in to something much deeper, aren't we? You know, it might just feel like, oh yeah, I'm pressing a few buttons and playing around and making a melody, but actually we're tapping into a resonance within us much deeper, that has a much deeper emotional and spiritual and mental and physical response, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you completely get it, Lisa. I can see that. You completely get it. I'm going to pick up on 2 points, actually, that we've had so far in our conversation. I really love the story about your bread making, singing lady.
Yeah.
Edwidge. I'd love to meet her and taste her bread. But what she's doing there is something that's really, really important, which is actually singing with people in a communal way. Because actually what's happened in recent history, very recent history, is that we've all become most of us have become quite separated from the fun and the joy of making music. And so you've got performers who stand on stages that everybody worships, and the rest of us who consume music somewhat passively. And what we've seen in recent times, and there's science behind this, there's just basically empirical evidence. But when people participate in music and making music, something much more exciting happens. And that's what she's doing. My wife, for example, has joined a wellbeing choir in the last 2 years. And you know, she just loves going there. It's that energy, the spirit that happens when people come together. And what a lot of scientists are saying now, and we kind of all know it intuitively, you know, we have to wait for the scientists to kind of confirm it, but we kind of all know it. But actually what the prevailing theory is now is that music exists in human society as a kind of, it engenders social cohesion. It brings us together and it helps us function more effectively together. It's one of the things that helped us survive when we were running around the savannah hunting wildebeest. You know, when you know, not only was language really important to help us organize ourselves in ritual, when we were enjoying ourselves after the hunt, we sang, we played music together. And you still see this very much in indigenous societies. Actually, you go to any music festival, you will see exactly the same thing happening. Nothing has changed. This is an ancient, fundamental part of human life.
And you see it in worship in people of different faiths as well, don't you? You see it in so many different settings. I know that you said that you've also done this in business as well, in terms of the dynamics between people in teams and in organizations can be enhanced through this shared experience of creating harmony. I mean, it says what it does on the tin, doesn't it?
Yeah, the word is there. We've gone a sort of a stage deeper actually with this, and this comes from my co-founder Mark Smullian, who's you know, really been the inspiration behind the fundamental ideas, due to his background working with warring societies in the Middle East. He brought together Gazans and Palestinians and Israelis, and had a very successful band.
That's incredible.
Overcame incredible obstacles to achieve that with great results. And out of that experience, that epiphany really was this understanding, deep understanding, that actually music has this ability to overcome barriers, you know, intellectual barriers, attitudinal barriers, mindset barriers. It has this amazing ability to cut to our nervous systems and, you know, release positive chemicals and actually open us up and cohere more effectively. So we've created this system called the Harmonic Codes, which is particularly useful in team building in businesses. And it's 3 very simple principles that you can practice through playing music. The reason why you don't have to be a musician to overcome this is that they're emotional skills.
Yes.
They're emotional and behavioral skills that we all have, but they're a bit underused. And using tools like the Mindharp and other activities and exercises, you can actually get to practice these things with each other. And that's great, you know, and these behavioral skills get nurtured and become foregrounded in team activities, in the normal run of play, in everyday life and business life, when you're dealing with issues in meetings. And I've absorbed these codes of behavior because it's actually what got me involved with Mark in the first place. I was very interested in this in terms of a team process.
Yeah.
And I've carried these with me for the last couple of years, and it's really obvious to me when I walk into any team meeting, business meeting that I'm involved in. I might be running it as well as a consultant, and as soon as somebody starts to break those rules, it's really obvious to me. Very quickly, I can spot who isn't listening, who's not taking responsibility for their role, blah blah blah. So it's very powerful. It's simple, powerful.
So is there something in there about the balance between left and right brain as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we call it, we all know about IQ. We've all heard this thing about IQ, which is some sort of barometer of intelligence. We talk about EQ, emotional quotient, which you'll know about, and I'm sure many of the listeners will know about. And what the Harmonic Codes are about are raising our level of EQ.
And so what's been the journey? So, you know, take you back to your 7-year-old self, you know, seeing your older brother's guitar and thinking, I want a piece of that. And being in the corporate world and moving to, what's been the journey? How did you go from that, an interest and a desire for music, into MindHarp, and how has that progressed to where you are now?
Good. Okay, so I'll try and sum it up quite quickly. I did all the normal things that a guy like me, lad like me, done. You know, I came from a fairly humble background, but I managed to get to university, which was fantastic. I'm a creative person, and so I went into marketing, which seemed like the obvious thing to do. Really loved my marketing career. I was very lucky. I worked with big companies. You know, I did very well. Lloyd's Bank, international companies, AXA Nobel. Did work with people like Bupa International. I was on the founding marketing team of Orange Telecom, actually, in the 1990s. Yeah. And that was my sort of catapult into, you know, high level marketing stuff, which was great. But always, I felt somewhat divided inside because, you know, my first and true love, the guitar and music, was always taking a back seat.
Yeah.
And I never really saw how I could somehow combine my passion and love for music with my business expertise and experience that I'd created. I came to a bit of a crisis in 2013 where I'd actually decided to, well, in 2006, I left corporate life and set up my own business as a consultant. And I really enjoyed that, fantastic. But again, there was this tension. I wasn't doing the stuff I really wanted to do.
It was calling you.
It was calling, yeah. And I had a bit of a crisis in 2014. I tried to get involved with another business. It failed. I lost some money. It all ended badly with the people. It wasn't a pleasant experience. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to actually stop all that. I'm going to go back to the music. And I made a very, very conscious decision to do that. And I joined bands. I started playing very actively again, started writing music and writing songs again. And I met this guy, Mark Smolian.
Right.
Humble, small guy, got chatting to him, brilliant musician. And he'd had this extraordinary background in peace building in the Middle East, very successful producer in the Middle East of award-winning albums. And I really was interested in his ideas and his philosophy, and he inspired me. And I said, Mark, let's work together. Let's do something together. And that was the beginning of it, basically. And we're such a close collaboration.
Yeah.
You know, in 5 years of working very closely with Mark, we've never fallen out. We've never had bad words for each other. Of course, we get tetchy, you know, we're a bit like an old married couple. But actually, you know, and that is to do with what I'm talking about. You know, we come from a place of mutual respect. And this comes from years of playing music and having a higher love, which is music for us. You know, it operates on a different level, and this is the inspiration for everything we do.
So how has MindHarp developed then over that period of time?
Yeah. Okay. So we almost together had this epiphany of saying, wouldn't it be amazing if we could create something that would enable non-musicians to engage meaningfully with meaningful musical sound? That was the big idea. What the hell were we going to do? So we cobbled together a Heath Robinson tool, which was, you know, a sort of funny keyboardy thing connected to a computer, and started creating and producing sounds to work with that. Inadvertently, I got involved with the world of dementia through my son, actually, who was doing a project for the Bath Dementia Action Alliance. And I was very fascinated by that. And I knew that music was being used with really powerful outcomes with people living with dementia. Yeah. So I said to Mark, right, let's just focus our attention on doing something useful with some social purpose in that space. So we committed and we volunteered for a year every Friday in a dementia home in Bath. Right. And that's where we evolved the sounds. We worked closely with carers. We worked directly with people living with dementia. And within weeks, we knew we were onto something really interesting here because we saw immediate effects. The carers and the managers of the home were gobsmacked, frankly, because they'd seen people responding and reacting and being stimulated in ways that they'd never seen before. So this was incredibly exciting for us and very heartwarming as well, because we felt that we were doing something useful for once. And so that's where it all really started for us. Now, in the last year, and that was very, very pleasingly for us, we were recognised in the National Dementia Awards last year as well.
That's fantastic.
We were finalists in the National Dementia Awards for, you know, a relatively small amount of work that we'd done up to that time, so which was a wonderful affirmation of the effort and work that we put in. But we've actually, our dream really is to go much broader than that, because that's quite a niche area. We're still working in that area. We're still very committed in that. But actually, we really want to take the Mindheart to the world. So that's our project this year. Right. So we've republished the app with new sound banks on it. We're developing lots of wellness and well-being activities to work with the Mindharp, and developing collaborations with lovely people like you and the Wellness Network. To you know, healthy collaborations with people, so we can learn from the practitioners in other areas and adapt Mindharp activities to work with those practices as well. So that's our thing. And, you know, we're looking forward to working in my other professional, with my other hat on in the business world as well.
And I think you were mentioning that you've got your own form of meditation with the Mindheart as well. You call it something different?
Yes. We have Musications.
Musications, I love that.
So the actual current version of the Mindharp has some beginner-like musitations inbuilt into it. And they're a nice way to introduce people into playing the Mindharp as well. So you go through a passive musitation, where you just listen to it. Yeah. A lovely voiceover with a wonderful voiceover artist called Tim Wells, who's a very dear friend of mine. And then there's an active musitation where you're prompted to tap and play and join in as well. And then the third level is what we call solo play, which is where you just enjoy and explore the Mindharp for yourself and your own enjoyment.
And so if people are listening to this and I've got to have Mindharp, how do they go about doing that then?
Okay, Stewart? Well, at the moment it is only on iOS, Apple, iPads and iPhones, and that's not because we don't want to be an Android. We just haven't quite got the funds yet to do that. That will come as soon as we can. Just go to the best thing is to go to our website, which is mindharp.world. Yeah. So it's not .com or .co.uk, .world, mindharp.world.
I like that, because you're going to take music to the world, of course. Yeah.
You got it.
Of course.
That was the reason for it. There's plenty of links there which just take you straight to the App Store. It's good to go to the website because there's lots of resources on the website as well. We've put a lot of time and effort into putting lots of resources on the website. You can actually listen at the moment. You can listen to free our Musications, our passive Musications. They're all on the website, so you can get a flavour for what I'm talking about directly there. And it's only 99p, so you can have
very inexpensive, isn't it? Good value. Yeah, fantastic. And so thinking to the future then, you said obviously, you know, in the future you will move to Android as well. You know, what else is your vision for MindHarp then?
Well, the vision is, you know, we want to see more people engaging with musical sound because it's simply it's good for you. That's the bottom line. The science is telling us that it stimulates our minds like no other stimulation does. It stimulates social cohesion. So we want to be working with much more practitioners in the professional spaces. We want to be doing, as soon as we're over all this COVID stuff and people can actually get together again properly, we want to be running workshops again because we've obviously been doing workshops. And I would love to be doing things like retreats as well.
Wow,
working with other like-minded and sympathetic practitioners and running retreats and all of that too. You know, that's exciting for me and interesting.
Fantastic. It's so exciting, and I just so get it. You know, music is a huge part of my life. Absolutely. There's a theme tune to your life running in the background the whole time. And the emotional impact on well-being, and, you know, but not only the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, all of it is so enhanced by music, beautiful music. So as with all of my guests, my final question for you today is, what is your top tip for life?
Okay, really simple, this one. I really didn't have to think about this one. Engage with music. Doesn't matter what you do, every day, do something with music, okay? Even if it's just sitting down and just listening to music, switch off your phone, don't look at the screen, just listen and enjoy it. Or get in the shower, sing out of tune at the top of your voice, allow yourself to do it. And you know, and if you can, do it with other people as well, you know, if that's possible, or people are willing to have a go.
Hopefully not in the shower. Well, maybe.
Whatever.
Whatever. It's been my absolute pleasure chatting with you today, Stuart. It's absolutely fascinating what you're doing. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.